Good morning. We are recording. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Our topic today is love is in the air, and that was chosen. That was chosen by my romantic husband, Bob. Although he wasn't really being romantic when he chose it. He was talking about loving life, and that how nice if we just had everybody adopt the attitude that we're loving life. That these are the good old days, and just drop everything else that has us thinking otherwise. And so these are the good old days was my idea. Love is in the air as his, but nevertheless, we were on the same wavelength.
Well, I was on that wavelength because I had seen earlier, and many of you have already seen this, the COVID mask. They were showing which ones worked and which ones didn't work. And when a person would sneeze, all of the dispersion of the droplets and how long and how far they went. And I thought, well, what if love is a droplet and love is everywhere, love is in the air? Literally, when we're speaking love, we're literally speaking it into the air. But even more than that, we're speaking it into the air that's charged with the energy of that love that then connects to the energy that is that love as well. So love literally is in the air. And if any of you have ever had the good fortune, as I have, to be in love, when you're in love and the person you're in love with is anywhere near you, that energy is palpable. You can feel that. And because it's in the air. And I remember seeing some time back in a picture of a club where they showed two people that saw each other. When they saw each other, they became the only ones in the room. But more importantly than that, everyone else in the room also knew. There's an energy that goes with that. So love is energy in motion. It's in the air.
Yeah, that can be embarrassing when there's an attraction going on that you think is silent, but everybody else notices, and sometimes you hear about it later. That happened to me a time or two in my younger years.
We see it in the movies all the time. You see two people like they're acting like they're not attracted. I see where this is going to go. And we watched a movie last night where we watched the courtship that wasn't a courtship. We knew it was a courtship. Everybody knew it was a courtship.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can feel those things.
Oh, okay.
Someone is having trouble hearing us.
Let's see if this helps. Is it any better? Hopefully. We turn the volume up.
Okay, so that volume goes up on the recording?
Yeah, it should be on the recording, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start, after that little introduction, I'm going to start by reading an affirmative prayer, just to have us all on the same spiritual high here. And this is written by Ernest Holmes, and it is the spiritual mind treatment for today. And he starts out by saying, Jesus, in utmost simplicity, proclaimed in the ecstasy of his illumination, I and the Father are one. What do you suppose would happen if you believed his declaration for yourself, not as a mere intellectual concept, but with deep inward feeling and an expanding sense of its meaning? Would you not sell all that you possess with a single pearl of utmost worth? Then this drop of water taken from the ocean of being, this mountaintop of revelation? If the wisest person who ever lived proclaimed this truth, should you not accept it simply, directly, and sincerely? The Father and I are one. Perhaps what Jesus taught seems too good to be true, and yet all nature is a living example, a continuous reminder that there is a spirit animating everything, a presence diffused, a law governing, a unity sustaining and culminating, a will binding all together, a unifying principle holding everything in place. So say to yourself as I share this in the first person, I cleanse the windows of my mind that it may be a mirror reflecting inspiration from the Most High. Today, I walk in the pathway of inspiration. There is an inspiration within me that governs every act, every thought, with certainty, with conviction, and in peace. The key that unlocks the treasures of the kingdom of good is in my hand. I unlock the doorway of my consciousness and gently open it, that the divine presence may flood my whole being with light. Illumine my being with its radiant glow, and direct my footsteps onto the pathway of peace and joy. And so it is.
Beautiful.
Amen. Isn't that beautiful? So sometime this week, I think I was actually reading something about potential gloom and doom happening in the future. And it made me think, oh my God, if that happened these days right now, we would say these are the good old days. These were the days when we could be at home safely. We have plenty of food. We're with our loved ones, hopefully, or we're in touch with our loved ones on Zoom. We can communicate that way, that we can not work as hard perhaps as we used to be and are still enjoying life. We're healthy. These are the good old days. And I thought, I'm just going to start living that way. And I'm going to tune out a lot of what's happening in the world, so that it's not forefront in my consciousness. And I am just going to be living like every day is the best day, because that really is a choice we can make. A lot of us think that we have to live in reaction. We have to feel what we are reacting to circumstances around us. But we do not have to live in reaction. We can be the cause. We can be the first cause. And as the reading said that I just read, it's in consciousness. It starts with us first. And then we can actually lift the world. I know many of our people, by that I mean spiritual people in the world, really do see what's going on as a new birth, as a rebirth. And that also is a positive way for us to look at it. And I choose to believe that too, that we're really evolving into higher and better organization, and better as individuals and better as species, as we change this idea of thinking of God as a human in the sky to an energy that is everywhere around us, in us, as us. We are it also, continually renewing ourselves. And so one of the things I did is that when I was thinking, gee, these are the good old days, because I grew up in the 50s too, and I remember now everybody calls those the good old days. And I looked at Bob and I said, do you remember they had us practicing in school, hiding under our desks, which weren't big enough to hide under, to prepare for an atom bomb that we thought Russia was going to drop on us? It's just it's so ridiculous. It's hilarious.
Well,
if that would do any good.
we actually have out on our porch, we have 2 desks that we can climb under in the event that there is a nuclear attack. So
right. So I was about at that time, and so can you imagine today if we had children in school of all ages practicing jumping under their desk to prepare for any kind of an event? That is absolutely terrorizing. I remember my biggest fear was how I'm not getting on that bus they said we were to get on and go God knows where. I'm running home to find my mother. What I'm supposed to leave her and she doesn't know where I am and we don't know where she is. So they weren't the great old days. They were just like life. And neither were the 60s or 70s or 80s or any decade you want to idealize.
I listened to an interview with Joan Baez last night at about 2 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep for some reason. And she was saying that we need to not romanticize the 60s. We need to appreciate that they went on, that there was enormous talent and energy and all of that, but we need to make room for the next expression of that creative process, not be stuck in or reminiscent of the old. The old is the old, it's done. But what we need to do is to allow ourselves to engage in the present, allow ourselves to have a new moment. And we can't have that if we're busy caught up either in thinking that the middle of right now is terrible, or the only time that's any good is the time that's already passed. So we can't past or future. We really have to present.
We really have to be right here. But part of my saying, well, if these are the good old days, I guess it reminded me of good old days, and so I decided to cook a big pot of gumbo, which I've almost never done. I'm from Louisiana, and I left when I was 18, and I have a recipe from an aunt, but it's nothing I've done very regularly. So because it's a lot of work, but I had Amazon Music turn on Cajun music, and it was authentic Cajun music from the 50s and 60s, I think. And so I just had a gay old time making gumbo, and I'm just decided to make every day fun, however I can do it.
Right.
Excuse me.
That is the mission, if we can allow ourselves or give ourselves permission to do that. So last night I had an idea that I wanted to share today, and I get these ideas before I talk so that I have something I can talk about. And I thought about, just imagine for a minute, imagine that you're a consciousness without a body, a consciousness with experience, with history, with past, with everything that you call you, but you don't have a body. And imagine now that you've decided it's time to have a body and to have the body have the experience of living in this realm, in this dimension. Now, what I'd like you to do is shift a little bit away from the idea of getting the body and think about that the body you're going to get is an instrument. And imagine that that instrument is an instrument in an orchestra, a symphony orchestra. There's about 144 members normally in a normal symphony orchestra. And so you get to pick which instrument you want to be. And if you pick that instrument, and let's say, for instance, you pick a violin, and in fact, you might even choose to be the first violin. So you choose to be the violin, and here's the mission. The mission is for you to learn how to play that instrument, to learn how to love that instrument, to learn how to have that instrument be the divine expression of you at its very best. Now, what happens to us in this process, and this is my experience as I was seeing it, is that we come in believing that we're a violin, and 30 years from now, we look at ourselves and we look like a cello, or we look like a bass, thinking, what happened? Oh my God. We spend a lot of time thinking that the instrument that we chose to be, and that we chose that instrument because that instrument had the capacity to play music in a way that no other instrument could play. And that was our job, to play life our own way, our own unique way. We choose the instrument that is best suited for that play, and then we reject it. We treat it like it's the enemy. We treat, why can't I be a violin? Why can't I be a flute? I've always heard that being a harp is so much better than being a piano. It's not true. But the problem with it is that we don't embrace who we have decided to be in this life as, and to allow that body to be a sacred instrument. And so part of, when I say love is in the air, love is in the air in that the instrument that you brought, the instrument that you have, the instrument that you are, is an instrument designed to experience and express love. And it's designed to express love in a most divine and amazing way, unlike any other instrument. If we give each instrument in the orchestra the same piece of music and they play it, it will not be the same music. It'll be the same music in the sense that you recognize the melody, but the way it's expressed will be unique to that individual. And so I couldn't help but feel excited about thinking, if each of us was an instrument that we celebrated and acknowledged and admired and appreciated, wouldn't that be very different than what we often do? Many of us are trying so hard to be different than we are so that we'll fit in, so that we'll be okay, that we'll be acceptable, rather than allowing ourselves to be the instrument. Joan Baez,
acceptable to ourselves.
Yeah, Joan Baez in the interview yesterday, she said, I've been listening to my old records, she said, and I realized that I had a miracle gift. And she did. She had a wonderful and extraordinary voice, but she said, my job was to deliver and maintain it. Mm-hmm. Think about that. If your job is to deliver the instrument, to deliver the instrument that you are, to deliver the music that you have inside of you that no one else has, isn't that a sacred trust? Isn't that something very special that no one else could have? And I wonder what it would be like if, when you got up from this thing we're doing today, this lesson, and you looked in the mirror and you said, I'm a magnificent instrument for good. I'm a magnificent instrument for love. How will I be today? How will I share that today? How will I play that today? as opposed to, God, if I could lose 10 more pounds, I would be worth something. Or if I could do something with me that I haven't already done. And I think this is a chance for us right now to look at ourselves and say, I'm enough. I came here with an intention to be an instrument that's enough. And I don't think that's easy for us to do in the world that we're living in.
There's definitely enough of us.
Well, many of us,
enough.
some of us are even bigger than a cello.
I work on that one.
Yeah.
So another thing that I was thinking about is because I've been watching some streamed spiritual gatherings, and there's a lot of talk these days about heart coherence, even heart-brain coherence. One of the things I've learned from Joe Dispenza's book is that our heart is loaded with neurons. We used to think neurons were just in the brain, but they call them cardio neurons, cardioneurology. So, and in HeartMath is the organization that taught us about heart coherence. And what that is making the vibrations that our heart puts out match those of the brain and the other areas. And coherence is really a term that applies to the frequency and amplitude of the waves that they get when they measure these things electronically. So in that sense, that heart coherence makes sense. But when I was schooled in how to reach this state, and they have a little galvanic skin response tool that you can buy from them and put on your finger or your wrist, and it tells you when you reach heart coherence. But when I was schooled in how to do this, I was told, just think of someone that really, really loved you, a very special person when you were little, perhaps, or perhaps as an adult, someone who really loved you. Just think about that experience. And I did. I was fortunate enough to be able to think about my mother, and I was immediately in coherence. The little measuring instrument immediately took me there. So I thought, oh, that's easy. Now I know how to get into heart coherence. I just think about being, a really beautiful, idealized, perhaps love, but perfect love. And that's not hard to do. That's not hard to do.
When I did that same experience, I imagined holding our dog when we first brought our dog home, our puppy.
Dog, yeah.
And he's looking up at me and I'm petting him, and there is an inner smile that you cannot keep away. But I wanted to add to that piece that you're talking about. There's the heart coherence with the brain. But imagine that every atom of your body, every atom, is listening and responding to every thought. And there's a coherence at an even deeper level than the heart and the brain. There's a coherence that goes on between the brain and the heart and every cell and every atom of the body. Imagine every atom having intention. It does. And imagine then how easy it is to sabotage your own good when what you're imagining is things not working. And so part of the benefit of what Judith is talking about when she says, I'm going to live in the day and be happy, I'm going to make it a happy day, is she has an intention to program every atom of her body to view life in a way that includes the best rather than the worst, that includes a possibility for good rather than for things going badly. The problem is whatever we program, we're going to look for. So if what we do is spend way too much time listening to programs on television that tell us about what's going to happen that's not going to be good, and always predicting the very worst, we're setting up an intention field to notice and attract and connect with everything that's negative. That doesn't mean we should be in denial of it, but we should at least have a proportional view of it. We should say, well, I understand these are the things that are going on, but here's other things that are going on too, which is what you're saying. And that's really, really critical.
Well, not only that, many of you know that I have very close relatives near and dear to my heart who are very ill. And so my switch is not just because they're doing better and two of them are. And we have a couple new ones with other tragedies going on and illnesses that they're diseases they're fighting and whatnot. And I've just decided that that can't be what determines how I feel. First of all, it does
Mhm.
them no good at all for me to feel sad or down about their struggle. I don't help them one iota when I do that. How I help them is I help them by seeing them as well, visualizing them as well, seeing them as happy, and staying that way myself, because it does no good for me to bring my vibration down. I bring my vibration down when I
Mhm.
join in the struggle, join in the sorrow of it. It's not at all helpful. So I just decided that's going on out there. The numbers, I'm getting up to 2 hands now of loved ones, and I just can't let that be what affects me. I need to stay in joy.
But you're also affecting, whether you know it or not, the well-being of all of those you love by the way you are being in your relationship with them. If, first off, we need to get rid of the idea or end the idea that where we are in physical proximity has anything to do with the love that we give and the love that we receive.
Right.
And so in the Raymond Moody tape I talked about last week, where people had a near-death experience and went off and visited friends and relatives while they were out of body, they had a physical presence with that person that they loved, even though they weren't physically anywhere within hundreds and hundreds of miles of them. Imagine then that thought has no boundaries, that consciousness has no boundaries. That means when you hold one of your relatives in love, and you hold them with love and smile, and you hold them in love and cherish, there is no room for holding them in pain and suffering. There is no room for you to hold them in disease. And if you join with them in their disease, then you become a partner in the disease as opposed to a partner in love. And so, one of the things we have to do is try to clear ourselves of everything that we don't want to affirm and affirm everything we want to see more of. And so when you hold that image of one of your children or of anyone else in the family and you smile, that smile goes directly to the consciousness that they are, because love is in the air.
Love is in the air. Right. That's right. And I would like to get back to this idea of the heart coherence, because in listening, we listened to a presentation by Greg Braden that he made with the heart coherence presentation. And he was saying, when we increase our energy field is increased when we are in coherence, but also just when we meditate. When we meditate and know ourselves, be at peace and be in that kind of peace, it increases our vibrations around us. That increases coherence.
Mhm.
And so then the coherence, he said, also then creates cooperation. So as more and more of us do this, as we all get into spiritual practices of whatever turns you on, I'm not saying any particular one, but whatever uh, brings you peace and joy spiritually, as you do that, it enhances your heart-brain resonance, and that enhances cooperation with one another, which what we need to do to bring about new systems on our planet.
A really good example of this working in action is there's been research that shows that holding a dog or holding a cat lowers blood pressure.
Mm.
Now, if the cat lays on your chest and is purring, that cat is not worrying. The energy of that. So if the energy of love and kindness being directed toward you can lower your blood pressure on an interspecies basis, then I guess I wouldn't be surprised if when I hold a person in prayer and send them love and imagine them feeling the love and experiencing the love, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if they got better. And so the healing that we do is the healing that we are.
Exactly. That is how it works. And that's how we teach. I mean, that's what we teach. That as we think about, pray about, hold people in prayer and seeing them well and happy, that actually, because it's all one energy, the energy where we are is one and connected to the energy where they are, even if they're on the other side of the planet. So it all affects them.
This may sound a bit bizarre, and I could probably even get in trouble for it, but I'm going to share it anyway. And that is that it was a very close friend of mine who recently was in a coma and was thought to, everybody thought for sure that she was going to die. And they said I even got emails that said she was brain dead. And that was it. And I thought, what can I do? And so I'm laying in bed and I thought, you know what I can do is I can hold her. And so I imagined crawling into bed with her. This is the part where I can get in trouble. And just holding her in love, holding her. And all during the night, I would wake up and I was still just holding her. We didn't do anything else. And I held her in love.
Oh, be darn.
And I thought, I can't do anything. There aren't words that I can use. There's nothing that I can say. And when I started trying to talk her out of a coma, all I was doing was affirming the coma, because what I was doing was saying you can't have a coma when you're already in one. I thought, but I can hold her in love. I can just hold her. And I don't know, she did come out of the coma and she's doing really well now. And I don't know to what extent that made any difference, but I know that when we hold people in love, not in words and not in lessons and we just hold them in love, the love is healing. If a cat can help me lower my blood pressure, holding someone in love can help them get better.
Exactly. That's beautiful. Well, so love is in the air. And, you know, what we talked about and what I want to say is start wherever you can start. I'd love it for you to be able to start with self-love, because we all need to send ourselves more love. We are such inner critics, you know, we're just always trying to improve ourselves. So if we could just start with self-acceptance, self-love, and then extend that out to loving others, loving life, loving our planet, loving the world. It's just so helpful. I've just got to share, one of the things I learned from Greg Braden that has just really lifted my mood is he shared something about our global warming, because that's always just hurt my heart to see what human beings are doing to our planet. And he shared that, yes, we do need to do all that we can do to stop using fossil fuels and carbon emissions and all of that. We need to do that. And yet, the biggest cause of the global warming, he says, is cyclical, based on where we are in we do an eclipse around the sun. I'm not talking about the yearly one, but a larger one. It's not a round circle around the sun. It's an eclipse. And as we get into the narrower parts of that, going back hundreds of thousands of years, the Earth has had a warming during that time. So yes, we need to do everything we can do to help it, but we did not essentially cause it. And that just really made me feel better. I thought, oh, that's great, because I do want to do everything I can. And yet it makes me love other people. It makes me love other people more, to know that everybody's not doing everything they can to stop this rise in temperature.
It's up to us to make this a better planet. It's not on us that it's as bad as it is. Not entirely. I mean, we've contributed to it, but that's a huge difference, you know, and that's a beautiful, beautiful thing to realize.
Yeah. So we can love ourselves, love others, just love life. Let love be in the air.
We can have
your life. We can have
a love-alicious life.
We can. So.
The CSO.
Oh yes. I never know how to hold that.
Right. So for those.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. For those of you who want to donate to our center, it doesn't show up. There we go. Then this is you go here when you can see it.
CSL Palm Beaches.
Right. But please don't donate like this, like it just disappears. Donate it. So
there is a place to donate on the site. It's a donate button, right, or page, and if you care to support us, we appreciate it. We do exist with your donations, and we appreciate all of them.
So why don't you end us with an ending treatment?
Okay, all right. Okay, join me now. Let's just go within and know the truth of our being, which is that we are one. We are one with each other. We are one with the infinite intelligence and wisdom and love that we call God. We call this energy God. It is always creating. And we are always creating because we are made of the very same God stuff. And so we create with our minds by thinking. We create with our emotions by feeling. We create with our inner visualizations. And we create with our feelings by feeling how it feels when we experience what it is we choose. So we give great thanks for the reminders this morning. We give great thanks for reminding ourselves that the best thing we can do for ourselves and our loved ones and our planet is to be in love with life, and let that be our experience. We choose it, we accept it, we give thanks for it. And together we say,
And so it
and
is.
so it is. What are you doing?
When to stop.